Do you happen to know if, the Balaji temple, Madhuri,
Huh?
whether the lectures are over? There was some lectures going on,
Yeah,
right?
over the weekend. Yeah, I heard about that. It was
Yeah,
very nice. I think they are done, I think, by
they're done.
Sunday.
Okay,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
because in order to do the custom live
Yeah,
streaming, I
yeah.
want to make sure. Yeah,
Right.
okay, I think it should be
Yeah, I heard about that lecture.
It was a Bhagavatam Saptaha in Tamil.
correct.
Oh, Tamil, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get started. Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yeah. Madhuri, you want to start?
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी
Jayashree?
Hari Om Sunitaji, Hari Om everyone.
Hari Om.
Namostu te vyasa vishala buddhe pullara tapatra netra yena tvaya bharata taila purnaha prajvalito jnanamaya pradipaha prapanna parijataya totra vetraikapanaye ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतुदुहे नमः वसुदेवसुदं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Very good. Thank you, Jayashree.
Thank you, Sunitaji.
So, we are in that section of the 13th chapter where we are talking about what is it that we are trying to understand. So, we are just starting to discuss about Tat, Tattvamasi.
Mhm.
We have finished about knowing about ourselves, Tvam, and we know about understanding that reality also, or about God. Now what is the connection between the two, right? Asi, that part is what we are trying to understand. But even there, what I wanted to mention was when we are trying to understand Tat, we have this notion there is this somebody out there who is there to look after us and everything, who's really the controller of the whole universe and everything. But in this, starting from the 13th chapter, we are trying to understand that aspect of Neyam, and in order to understand that Neyam, we went through a section where we were trying to prepare our mind for the takeoff, you know. So, as Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda would say, you know, for a plane to take off, okay, the plane has to travel about, I mean, let's say we are traveling from India to US, you know, or and you're taking this 15-hour flight, sometimes from Mumbai to New York or something. You have to make sure that this flight has enough fuel, the flight has been well maintained, the plane has been well maintained, and everybody is like, you know, really all up for making sure that this flight will land in New York, right? So, in order to do that, the plane is really well conditioned. So, too, for us, our mind has to be completely well conditioned, uh, well prepared to really understand what this knowledge name is all about. So, in order to do that, the purity of mind, the 20 values were given to us. And those 20 values, if when really understood well, and we are watching ourselves. I think there is no such thing. It's not like our exercise, like we keep saying, where we have to do something, but it is actually watching ourselves to make sure all those things which are opposite of those values which were given in the 20, that we are really alert to it and we are not succumbing to those things. So when we do that, slowly and slowly, our mind becomes alert and the purity of mind is obtained. And because of the purity, we really understand what this name is, which is the knowledge which tells us about that aspect of what we need to know. So this name is what we are trying to learn. And here, this 13 to 18 are actually very reflective shlokas. So, in these reflective shlokas, we are trying to really understand that aspect of the knowledge of the goal, the Gneyam, and it is really meant to, as we reflect more and more, it is meant to inspire us about really that aspect of who that Tat is, and to make our mind more yearn for that understanding. Okay, so that is where we started with, and in 13th shloka we already, Krishna is telling Arjuna that, I'm going to tell you what it is, and about the fact that, even though in most cases, like for example, anything in the world, we can try to know it through our sense organs, through the five sense organs. But this aspect of Tat, which is Brahman, we cannot know it through any of our sense organs. It's only through Shruti Pramanam and through reflection and through meditation. So in this shloka of 13, there are already three things that is mentioned about that aspect of Brahman is Anadi, and that aspect of Brahman is neither manifested as in any gross thing, nor is it unmanifest. That doesn't mean that it is not there. There is something there. So it is in an unmanifest form, and that aspect is talked about here. So this whole thing, we already went through it. And coming to shloka number 14, he basically says that, I will now try to tell you this aspect of Brahman, which is in a very condensed form in all the Upanishads. It's really talked about quite a bit. And now we will go into some details, because obviously for us, we need something, some ways in which to grasp this concept. So, sarvata panipadam tat, sarvata akshishiro mukham, sarvata shruti mudloke, sarvam avrati tishrati. So, we did last time where we talked about that, literally, if something is very quiet, right, it's very still, we are unable to even perceive what is going on. We need some action. It's only through action or motion that we feel, oh my God, okay, there is some life here or something. So too here, Krishna is telling Arjuna that in order to perceive what that Brahman is, think about it as, millions of hands and feet everywhere, and then millions of eyes, heads, mouths everywhere. This is the way that Brahman exists, enveloping all. So with hands and feet, so all these are kind of metaphors to really make us understand that that Lord is everywhere, in everything. So it is because of it that all these hands and feet are moving. It's because of it that the eyes are able to see all this. So he says, that exists. Without this existence, there is no way that any of the things can happen. So he says nothing is excluded. So simple example we gave as electricity last time. Electricity by itself we cannot see, but because of electricity, all the bulbs, all the heaters, all the refrigerators, the computer, everything is really working. And this is one thing which we have said. So then now the question comes is, what exactly is this Brahman? You know, okay, we can't see by eyes and everything. What exactly is it? So so that aspect of Brahman is defined as the basic, it is the essence of the universe. If you remember in our study group, we used to discuss about this example of the carpet. You know, the carpet, when you look at it, you see all the names and forms of, so many different animals and birds, and everything is beautifully woven into the carpet. And our eyes get really glued only to those names and forms. But if I drill down to what those names and forms are on that carpet, it is actually nothing but thread which has been woven very intricately, correct? And even if you look at what the thread is all about, the thread is nothing but cotton, you know. So I'll stop the analogy right there. If I go beyond that, of course, we will talk about, okay, what is cotton made of? It's made of cellulose, and cellulose is nothing but carbon, hydrogen, all that stuff. No, we won't go there. But think about, ultimately, it is that cotton which is the basic substrate. It's a basic essence on which that whole carpet has been woven, right? So too, Brahman is, think about it, is that ultimate substance out of which this entire creation is made of. When we look at the entire creation, we look at only, human beings and, birds, animals, and all the material stuff, the mountains, the rivers, all these things is what, we really look at. But if I drill it down, just like I use this example of the carpet, just like the carpet has just beautiful colors in and through, it's nothing but cotton. So too, this universe is actually uh, the substratum, that existence which is there is nothing but Brahman. Okay? So it sounds very simple, but it is a little, it's not complicated at all. It is actually very simple. But we have really sort of polluted our mind to always think only in form of something which I can see. Only when I see something, I will really believe it. Cannot see, how are we going to really believe it? So how are we really going to approach this particular topic, right? So this is where, our rishis, I mean, they have already done everything for us. We don't have to we don't have to do any more analysis. All we have to do is think, and if we have that purity of mind, we will be able to come to similar conclusions using that same methodology which our rishis have given, right? So we will definitely arrive at that same conclusion that ultimately it is only this Brahman which is a basic substance. And so, this is the only way we can actually come to it. And in order to approach this topic, last time we talked about the fact that, since we are used to only looking at the world in the form of names and forms and everything, like for example, if you look at somebody, immediately a mind judges that person as, oh, this person is tall or short or fat or whatever, you know. So we tend to use these words as adjectives in order to understand all these things. So last time I just started to introduce this concept, which is, how these adjectives, they reveal our properties. And like for example, when we say this is a gold bangle, even though it is a bangle, is the substance, or is the thing. But what is it made of? It is made of gold. Okay. But, and the same thing with ring. It is a ring, but it is made of gold. But ultimately, what is really the important thing out here? Is it the ring or the bangle? No, it is that gold, actually, it is that gold because of which the ring and the bangle exists, right? So gold is that existence. Gold is, even though it's the adjective and the bangle is a noun, but gold is this. So too, like for example, this table on which I'm sitting is on the computer, it's a wooden table. Wood is the existence part of it, but I never look at the wood. I look at the table, and my attention goes there all the time, right? So adjective reveals the substance and not really a property, right? So too, in this whole world, everything is nothing but, if I take, for example, this example of this bedroom, what I've given, everything, I say that, okay, it's a fan, okay? And then this Aracharya used to use this as an example. Every time I look at something, I say, okay, this is a fan, but it is existence in the form of a fan. It is existence in the form of that frame. It's existence in the form of the lamp. It's existence in the form of the pillow. So whatever I experience in this world, you know, if I can slowly and slowly get rid of the name, okay, the name of the thing, Nama and then Rupa, what is it made of? you know and I look at, this is nothing but existence, existence. Slowly my mind will start to understand this concept of Brahman. Okay, so that is what he's trying to show you. It's ultimately nothing but existence. Okay, so I will stop here for a second and just open up a little bit for everyone to allow this thing to digest. Right? Any more thing to offer here? Does that make sense? And how can we really practice this knowledge? You know?
Just meditation, Savita,
Yeah.
right?
In
We know that,
meditation,
yeah, because we learned last week that tishtati, so it is there. That's it. So we have to
exactly.
feel like, I think like it is there, exists, and we have to remove that conditions from us, right? In the meditation, then just feel it. We cannot express, and we cannot, right? Only metaphor, like, something, as you said, space or
No,
something.
so in meditation, for example, whenever I have a thought and I try to analyze what that thought is all about,
Mhm.
I will see that in that thought there will be some people, right? And there may be some materials also. So maybe I'm thinking
Yeah.
about buying a new phone or whatever, you know. And I think about the phone, and instead of thinking about the phone, can I say that it is nothing but existence? You know, can I think about, whenever there is a person comes to my mind, even instead of thinking who the person is, my relation or whatever, I drop all that and I think, okay, ultimately it is nothing but existence. Existence. If I can focus my thought and my mind on that particular aspect and, reflect upon it.
No, but object we cannot, because along with me, everybody is also seeing that. The phone, right?
Right? No,
So
here
it
the example is very simple. It's only about using this kind of a concept for
elimination, yeah.
meditation.
Mm,
Just taking everything that I can imagine and say, okay, this is a phone, but its existence.
mm,
Just like this example that I gave of the golden bangle or the wooden table,
yeah. Only the
correct?
gold. It's not the ornament. Yeah.
Yeah, it is only the gold. It's only the gold. So to the this, and then I take it again using that example of carpet, what I gave, is ultimately it is nothing but cotton. So everything goes back to this one fundamental property that there is just existence. It's because of that existence that object is. If that existence was not there, for example, the golden bangle, okay? If the gold was not there, the bangle would not have been there. Again, this is all only because I want to really understand what that Brahman is. Because obviously, I cannot see Brahman, I cannot feel Brahman, I cannot. So, how will I ever understand this aspect of what Brahman is? Anant, anything more to add?
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Uh, yeah, in the same lines, I mean, we look at the root cause, right? For the ornaments, gold is the cause,
Yes,
right? Uh, and then for the pot is clay is the cause. So, so just start looking at the root. Then that's the one way to meditate and to practice that way.
exactly.
And even in the uh, you know outside, we'll see like uh, everything comes down to like elements. It's a water,
Mm-hmm.
right? We call it H2O.
Mm-hmm.
So they all came from these elements. So that
Correct.
kind of thinking as we develop, uh, I think that's the
Ex-
way to go.
Correct. And that's the same thing. That's why I put this whole example of this world is here. So normally, we look at this world, for example, um, as the world, each of this material is the first thing that really strikes us. All the buildings. I have even the Statue of Liberty, the planes, literally about everything that can be in the world, right? And then we come to the fact that, oh, by the way, this is made of this material, correct? That's how we say that. That's how we say. So this is generally our assumption, right? So the reason why we think this way is because we have conditioned our mind only to focus on the nama and rupa, the names and the forms. So we have to sort of go back now. And now, of course, if you look at, again, I keep saying this, how technology is developing and how AI is developing. And so AI also, if you look at it, artificial intelligence is depending upon the amount of stuff that is the database of information which is already there. And because of our queries, it is able to take certain things and create something for us, right? So ultimately, everything depends on some fundamental substratum of knowledge which is there, on top of which everything else is created. And that is what we call this as sort of a Maya. It's an illusion that has been created, which is very temporary, based upon the imagination of each one of us, right? So that, so this is how we have to look at this whole world, as nothing but existence. Okay? So the basic substance of everything in this world is not all these various objects and everything, but it is nothing but existence. And this existence, on top of which all these things are happening, is very, very, it's invisible. It is intangible. It's very abstract if you think about it. But without that existence, this whole world cannot exist. And that is why it is called as existence, right?
So even the three gunas and Maya won't be exist also without
Correct.
that this,
Nothing.
yeah.
Mhm. We are the ones who are giving a name and a form to all this. If somebody were to come from a different planet in here, okay, and they have never seen the world the way we are seeing it, what would they look at it? How would they look at things? They would just look at a mass of stuff, correct? They're not going to give the names like we did just now, like gold, ring, all that. They would just look at it as, okay, so that's what we're talking about here, you know?
Harvom,
Yeah.
is a definition for Jagat is Jayate Gachate iti Jagat. The
Mm-hmm.
one comes and goes, right?
Correct.
So again, the existence and non-existence.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So then, okay, if we are saying that it is nothing but existence, how can I remove all this out of my mind? You know, how can I look at everything? As I was telling you, our Acharya used to give this exercise, take this pen, say, okay, you're a pen. But don't go beyond that pen. Okay, this is my pen, or this pen can write, that writes so beautifully, this is better than the other. All this is illusion. That is Maya. Look at this pen as something which is, the pen itself exists because of that existence. If that existence was not there, this pen itself would not have been there. Okay? So slowly and slowly, I need to remove all the, I mean, we are now at much, much lower levels. Like I said, we tend to compare with, our mind goes only there. I have to now slowly and slowly get rid of that comparison part of it, get rid of even the fact that this is a blue color, and get rid of the fact that this is of the shape or nothing. I just have to say this is existence. You know, slowly and slowly, I have to get out of that thing. Only then I'll be able to ultimately, through my own reflection and understanding, I can experience this pure existence. You know, so that's the part. So this is where, in order for us to help us understand this concept even more, Vedanta gives us this example of all these dreams. So when I'm dreaming, for example, I see so many varieties of objects. Depending upon what gives me happiness, I can create more and more objects, you know. Uh, So that's how dreams are really constructed. But then on waking up, what happens is everything is dissolved completely, right? Those things never even existed. It's sort of unbelievable for us to understand that, I really went through so much of a problem. I was trying to cross the river, but there was in my dream, and, I was drowning, all these things. So, this whole thing is nothing but a kind of a dream. And that's what Vedanta is trying to tell us, that ultimately we are living a dream life at this point. I need to wake up out of this. But when I want to wake up, it is not as if suddenly I'm going to see everything pure white or something. The whole thing is going to disappear. It's like, I'm seeing the whole movie on this curtain, which is a white curtain. And then when the movie is, while I'm seeing the movie, I see all kinds of stuff happening on the screen. As soon as the movie is over, I go back to the white screen. Is that how it is going to be when I purify my mind and I take everything out? No, that is not how it is going to be, because, and why is that? Maybe I should ask that question. Why is it that as soon as I understand this whole concept, why is it that everything should not dissolve into a white screen? Why do you think?
Hari
I can. Okay, okay. Go ahead, Swarna.
Hari Om, thank you, Madhuri. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the reason why we cannot stay in that white screen is because once we keep it white, we are going to start putting images to it. We are going to start, there's going to be something or the other. So it has to be, we have to go beyond the white screen, and the mind has, we, the, it has, there is no mind, it, everything has to be Brahman, the Nirguna, not the Saguna Brahman. We have to, the, it has to be the, we have the, I don't know what it is that has to merge with the Atman, Jivatma has to merge with the Paramatma, that Nirguna Brahman. But we cannot stay on the white screen. That much I know for sure, because if we stay on the white screen, we are going to start putting pictures on it, and it is all going to be the samsara all over again.
Okay. You hit part of it, but there is one very, very simple thing,
Yeah.
Madhuri, you want to say
The mind.
something?
No, I just had that example. Like, see, when I feel like drinking a chai or something, with the water, I make tea. If rasam, I use the same water, but I make rasam. So I am creating all these, but ultimately it is only the water exists, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's how I'm trying to relate, like,
Correct.
the mind.
Uh-huh.
So until we drop the mind and experience the existence, it will be there, the creation. That's what I'm thinking. So
Though it's even more simpler than that. See, for all of us, we use our sense organs in order to see something, and the mind is helping the sense organs to actually see it, right? But as long as I'm using my sense organs, I will always see the objects. But Brahman is beyond this aspect of seeing and everything. So, so we are living in a world where we have the sense organs, and the mind, which is through the sense organs, are creating all these projections for us to see. So all these projections are being projected on a very invisible screen, actually. So something which is invisible there is no way we'll ever be able to see with our eyes, because our eyes are always used to seeing something visible. So the mind is always tricking us. And the mind, along with that, along with the mind, you have all these sense organs which are working with it to create all these images. To think of that Brahman, one cannot even have a thought. We have to go beyond thoughts. So for now, we are using our thoughts to understand that aspect, but we have to go beyond it.
Once you realize you are not there.
Yes, you are not there. Exactly. We are so conditioned to think of who we are. That is the problem for us. So just like in this dreams, we were able to create the dream on a very invisible substrate in our mind, right? Uh, that's why this example of dreams is so good, because um, we know the dreams never existed. It was existing only because the mind was throwing all these impressions. Without the mind, there wouldn't have been a dream. So that's the way to really understand this concept. So that is why, in this shloka number 14, he's trying to tell us that ultimately existence is a fundamental thing. And in that existence, all these Sarvata Panipadam, everything pervades this one. So just like how gold is inherent in all the instruments, existence pervades everything. So without this existence, it's almost impossible to think of anything else. So this brings us to shloka number 15, which says that, if all the sense organs are revealing all the Brahman, like for example, if the eyes can see the colors and they cannot reveal sound, etc. So they all work together. So therefore, this aspect of seeing, or smell, etc., they're all very mutually sort of exclusive. Shabda will come when sparsha is not there, rupa will come when space, this is not there, all this. So in this case, so then what should I do to really experience this Brahman? You know? So Krishna then says that, because, I mean, how this really happens, because this mixing of this Nama Rupa. So he says, Sarvendriya Gunabhasam, Sarvendriya Vivarchitam, Asaktam Sarva Britchaiva, Nirgunam Guna Bhoktricha. So known by the functions of all the senses, Sarvendriya Guna Abhasam. Yet, Sarvendriya Vivarjitam, it is not, known by all the senses. Asaktam Sarva Bhrit Chaiva, unattached, and yet supporting everything, devoid of this one. Nirgunam is, Nirgunam, which is completely devoid of qualities, and yet I'm the one because of which we experience. So that is how this second. So 14 we saw about the effect of, of Brahman because of existence. You have all the gunas. Here we are trying to see how it is known by all the functions of the sense, how it is known by the functions, yet not known by all the senses. Okay. So all these sense organs, okay, they exist because of Brahman. Okay. So when we teach, a child about, say, electricity, naturally, we'll have some doubts or questions about what is the nature of that electricity, right? So too, for example, when we are talking about Brahman here, we may also have some kind of doubts or questions. So in this shloka, now we see Krishna is actually going step by step and explaining what this Brahman is by answering like three questions with respect to its relation to the organs of action and the organs of our senses. So the first question, he's saying is, can this Brahman exist without the organs? You know, so he's asking, can it really exist without these organs of actions and sense? Uh, it is devoid of the senses, just like electricity, for example, right? Electricity can exist without the bulb. So too, the organs of sense and action are only a means by which this essence is expressing itself. If my hand is moving, for example, what is it that is making this hand move? What is it that is making my eyes see? Okay. So it is that power because of which my hand is moving, power because of which my my eyes are seeing. So just like how electricity can, power up this computer and everything, so too this organs and action cannot, you know, uh, uh, I mean, this computer cannot exist without this powering of my electricity of my battery. So too the organs of sense and action cannot really exist without this essence, right? So that is what he's trying to say. Can it really this one? So then the question is, how does this essence, eternal essence, fit into the play of senses? You know, so this is just trying this aspect of Sarvendriya Gunabhasam, Sarvendriya Vivarchitam, that ultimately it is because of the existence that this sense organs and the organs of action, all of them are really working. For example, how do I know that there is light in this room? Okay. I mean, okay, I can turn, it's kind of simple. I turn the light on and I see the light. The light is there. But the light cannot be manifested just like that if there were not certain objects which sort of reflects the light. So you need a kind of a reflecting medium here, right? For example, again, when I see this pen, there is there is something which is reflecting off it. When I look at the clock, for example, what I do, so I look at everything. There's something which is there because of which I'm seeing this object. So too it is with the other sense organs. I hear a sound, everything, there is something because of which, you know. So all of that ultimately is coming back to the same point, which is existence. So in 16th shloka now, coming to Krishna is now listing all the indications of this existence. We may be tempted to look at it with our eyes, just like, for example, if I'm missing my keys or something in the room, I keep looking for it, right? So, um, but in the case of Brahman, we can never really uh, understand what it is or look for it if I'm using my sense organs. We need to be continuously, we have to be reminded ourselves that this Brahman is neither an object or a concept that can be grasped or can be seen, heard, etc., by the senses or even grasped by the mind. So in this Shloka 16, Krishna uses through a way of this contradictions or paradox, in this and even in the next one. So he says, this eternal essence is neither an object or a concept that can be grasped by the mind, And so the first contradiction is this is both, this eternal essence is everywhere. It is there in the inert, it is also there in living entities. So by saying that, we are not, we are not trying to conceptualize this eternal essence something totally different, as limited only by space or etc. So it is everywhere. That is one thing. Then, like I said, the second contradiction is that it can be known, that it is beyond comprehension, that we cannot even know it or something, etc. So it is, of course, cannot be known just by the mind, but for people who have purified the mind. So those 20 values that we saw, which makes us more and more alert and makes us, really understand the mind for what it is meant for, for those who have purified the mind and who are following a very logical process in um, going through, saying that, either the neti neti principle or etc., it is definitely possible. Then the third thing is, for those who have inquired about this systematically, it is available at all times as a self, which is I. But for people who are ignorant, it is far, far away. So Shankaracharya actually says that, for people who are not able to use this kind of principles, this can be unattainable even in the millions of years, which is probably why, in some sense, maybe we go through so many births until we understand this. So we may have gone through millions of births. So idea being that as long as I'm focusing only on Nama Rupa, I'll never be able to understand what the self is. But when I remove all this Nama Rupa, all the containers, for example, if I have a glass of water, I think Anand gave that example too. As long as I have this glass of water and I'm looking for water, but I'm focusing only on the glass, okay? I'll never be able to see the water. I have to recognize that water is that substance which is there. The glass is only holding it. So that is how we have to, use a lot of these analogies, whether it's a glass of water, all these things. So the Upanishad style of description, they use a lot of this contradictions and paradoxes in order to make us understand what the truth is. So in 16th shloka, he says, Bahirantascha bhutanam acharam acharam charam eva cha sukshmatvat sukshmatvat tat avijneyam durastam cha antike cha tat. So that existence, which is existing outside and inside of all beings, and it is unmovable as well as movable. It is sukshma, it's very, very subtle. And because of it, we are not able to see it or understand. I mean, even for us, right, as subtle as what air is, okay, if I say there is air here, I don't feel it or anything until it starts to move. So it's very, very subtle. So imagine this is even much, much more subtler than any of them. And it is far and yet it is near. So this is, uh, directly from Ishavasya Upanishad mantras, where it is trying to say that it's beyond the reach of the mind and it is definitely, incomprehensible as far as the mind is concerned. Okay. So now we are coming to this aspect of consciousness. So now we have understood what existence means here, but we need to understand what consciousness is. So for this, there are 5 principles we can think about. So what are those 5 principles? One is that consciousness is not a part or property of any matter. Okay. In many ways, this is the same principles that exist that we can explain for even existence. Okay. So this is not a part or product or property of any matter. So immediately now we can, everything which is matter, now we can negate it, right? Second, it's an independent entity which pervades and enlivens everything. Okay. So it goes beyond the dimensions. Third one, it goes beyond the dimensions of matter or the body. And it survives even when the body is destroyed. And the surviving consciousness is not recognizable, not because it's not there, because there is no body medium for manifesting it. Is that clear? All these 5 principles? So it is not, the last one which says it's not because of the absence. So whenever there's any reflecting medium, you'll feel the existence or this consciousness. But whenever the reflecting media is not there, it is still there. Like, for example, with this pen, it's a reflecting media. It is reflecting the light. But if I take the pen out, does it mean it's not there? No, it is still there. Right? So this, in order to explain this, we have this classic example of this this hand principle here. So I have to first conceive that there is something called this existence or consciousness. And that's what this Tattvam Asi principle is. So Krishna, really adopts this method, uh, uh, which now, we can see this with this hand. For example, I put, to know that there is a light somewhere, I put this hand here. So what am I trying to say? It's not about the fact that there is hand, but I want to teach that there is something because of which I'm able to see the hand. Okay, it's just like how I showed this example of the pen, right? Okay, so there are, the hand and this light because of which I'm able to see the hand. Now, if I take the hand out, that light still is there, right? So too, the aspect of what I'm trying to say here is that at the end of the day, that existence and the consciousness is still very much there. It is because of the hand I'm able to experience it or see that it's out there. Okay.
Harvam,
Yeah, Anand?
like we see the sun's reflection in the water, right? And we take
Mhm.
out the water, then it's not reflected, but we know that the sun still exists.
Correct, correct. That
Right.
also you can say it exactly. So this is the whole aspect of, how our mind has to start to drop whatever is a form in order to move to the formless aspect. And that is why this example is, given about this light, which is that hand is symbolizing essentially a superimposition. So there is this example of Adhyaropa Apavada, where we are introducing a form only so that our human mind can conceive that there is something of that existence is there. But then once I take this apavada, I take the hand out, and this to show that existence can still be there. So this is really this movement of a form to a formless. So this uh, aspect of focusing on the formless. So Advaita Vedanta, is trying to teach how, like what Suvarna was saying, was nirguna to sadguna. So we are using many of the idols or nature to grasp something which is actually the formless. And this really gives us that aspect of it. So then I'll just introduce this concept in shloka number 17. So having explained this aspect of what that formless existence and consciousness is, Lord Krishna continues now to elaborate on this topic, and he describes something which is created by our own containers, by our conditioning. And he finally says that this essence is really undivided, it's not unbroken. It's only a mind that creates that fragmentation. And the example that he gives, Anand also mentioned this earlier, which is, how this clay pot, the space which is there in the rooms, and I just brought these two examples, whether it's the space in the pots or whether it's a space in the house, it appears as if the space in the room is divided into so many different, either it's a pot space or this room space. But in reality, we know that the space cannot be divided, right? So the same thing with the example of electricity, which looks like it is functioning differently in different aspects, but in reality, it is only the same one continuous circuit, which is really functioning in all of them, right? So too, actually, there is nothing but this one continuous and undivided aspect, which we call as this eternal essence, and which is there everywhere. But then, how do we account for all this creation and the destruction and the names of forms? So, Krishna says that ultimately it's this, you know, so he says, Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, vibhaktam cha sitam, avibhaktam, avibhaktam cha bhuteshu, vibhaktam iva cha stitam, bhutabhrit cha tatnyayam, grasishnu prabhavishnu cha, So we will talk about how this aspect of illusion is created, So we'll probably do that next week's, the 17 and 18, but that will complete the reflective part of this essence itself. Any questions before we stop? Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ Thank you, everyone.
Just stop
Hari
the
Om.
recording, Sunita.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.